Hello,
Hello,
hello.
hello.
How we doing, everyone?
Greetings.
What's going on? How we doing? How we doing?
Great.
Welcome,
Welcome.
welcome again to Wealth Bridge. Just want to appreciate you all viewers for tuning in again today, and I just want to appreciate my awesome partners. How you doing, Modupe? How's everything going?
I'm blessed. I'm highly favored. I'm still in the group of the Easter season. Thank
Uh,
God for his resurrection.
yes. And Adibola, how you doing as well?
I'm doing great. Great to be back. Happy
Yeah.
Easter, everyone.
Yes, good. Yes, happy Easter, all our viewers. We thank you, and we couldn't be doing this without you. And I just want to appreciate, my partners, Modupe and Debola, for always, jumping in, to just bring value to our viewers. And I hope, you've been watching all our past episodes. If for any reason you've missed any of our episodes, just go back to, the link and just continue to get all the content we've been doing. There's so many vital things that we've been talking about, and we'll continue to bring you even vital things. If there's anything that you need us to even talk about, you should put it in the comment. So we appreciate you, and we know that you're subscribing, you're liking, and you're sharing our content. So today, we're going to be talking about something also very important. And most of our focus, as we all know, it's always in the diasporan community, and this is why this is so vital. So if you're an immigrant, you're anywhere in North America, Canada, you can find some of this information very, very useful. Today we'll be talking about something called debt detox. Debt detox, and the areas we're going to be looking more into, breaking free from student loans, credit cards, car notes, and all these debts here and there. And this topic is so vital because a lot of us in the diaspora, we find ourselves caught in the webs of, student loans, credit cards, and car notes. But today, it is so important, and this topic is so vital to what we're going to be discussing today in our community. Whether you're Nigerian, whether you're Ghanaian, Jamaican, Haitian, maybe you got some Caribbean roots, as long as you're here in the US with us, you know, we often carry heavy loads as, diasporans. We talked about the student loans, that balloon because of wealth gap, credit cards that we max out, to cover remittances, family events back home, car loans that feel necessary but traps us in payments. So, and we see that, data shows that most in our Black community, the Black borrowers face higher default rates and slow repayment on student loans, due to lower family wealth and higher financial obligations, because of extended families. So today, Debola and Modupe, my wonderful panelists, we're going to be breaking down some things. And I want you to understand, as our viewers, these are disclaimer. We are not debt experts, but just in the little things that we've seen, based on the research, based on the things that we've seen in our own field of endeavor, in our expertise, in our field, we've been able to bring some value. So tonight, today, we're going to be sharing with us some of those step-by-step solutions that you and I, everyday diasporans, that we could just use in our when it comes to our finances in these areas. So my first question, I'm going to be addressing this to Modupe, and we're talking about this debt detox. The question is, what exactly is debt detox, and why is it especially urgent for our community to get things right?
Thank you, Demola. Thank you, our viewers. We appreciate your time. And just like he had said, I want to stress it more emphatically that while we are here as financial educators, we want to also sound a note of disclaimer, right? Most specifically, telling you that as financial professionals, these are things we do with our client day in, day out. So if you're just out there, you're catching a glimpse on this, by no means will you say that we told you to go do this if you're not our client. Okay. So by all means, I mean, the level and the clause of disclaimer, okay, it's out there. So to your question, Demola, this is very vital, especially in our community. When we started this, we were all out there to make sure that we had value to our community members. And when I say community members, I'm talking about all my immigrants from every nook and cranny who found themselves on the soil of the US, who found themselves on the soil of North America. But over time, you said it all, things build up. What itself is death detox. So just from the word detox, right, it literally means that you're getting rid of certain toxins you don't need in your body. If I'm trying to, paint an analogy now in terms of human anatomy. So debt detox in itself, if we're bringing it home to finance, I'm going to say it's a complete reset. It's like you press the reset button and you're like, you know what? We're going to do this a different way. We probably have done it, wrongly in time past. Now we know better. Let us address it more efficiently, more proficiently. Stop the bleeding. Let us pay down whatever it is we've owed. It's okay. We can go back and rewrite the wrong, but guess what we can do? We can get back to the drawing board and fix it, right? And I'm going to tell us, to be very frank, viewers, that what we're talking about here, it's the reality of many people. It's indeed a reality of a whole lot of us out there. But we can't continue to expect a change automatically when we don't address things the way it has to be. And it is urgent that we address this. So how can you detox? Stop the bleeding, like I said. Pay down what you owe. Build habits that would help us protect our future wealth. And so for those of us in the diaspora and our community members, right, it is urgent because all of these remittances, cultural expectations, when it comes to the big weddings and the funerals and supporting family, abroad, it's creating constant pressure on our supposed future wealth. Somebody might be out there and saying, well, the Bible says tomorrow is going to take care of itself. Absolutely. But the same Bible also gives us a room to make sure we make proper preparation for ourselves, so that our irresponsibility doesn't become somebody's responsibility. See? So many of us borrow more for college because our families don't have the generational wealth to help, which is what we are saying, this has to stop. Maybe that happened during our time. What about right now that we are bringing up our children? We shouldn't let the same thing repeat itself. Sit down and find out, what can you do to get a head start for our children right now, right? So in the course of us now borrowing all of this in terms of student loan, you see people struggle to pay this while still having to send money home. So you have to now pick and choose. Should I pay for the student loan that I owe? Or are there even options for me to be able to do certain things that are different than what I'm expected to? And overall, with all of these shortcuts, getting all these huge obligations in terms of debt, student loans, the results usually will result in delayed home ownership, businesses, and even our retirement is now at the mercy of the system or of lack of a structure that we have created for ourselves. Well, guess what the detox is going to do? It's going to help us clear up the cash flow so that now we have a whole lot more to invest for our future instead of just surviving. I know it might be tough, people, but what it means is just a reset. If a whole lot of us can do it, you too can. We just don't want us passing on the baiting of poverty again in our community. Let's start passing on abundance. Let's start passing on futuristic wealth, whereby it becomes the norm. We're not talking about it. It becomes the norm. You can do that. Thank you, Demola.
Yeah, very, very important. And, viewers, and what we're saying, it's not like we're saying that we won't get into these things. But it's very important that, you know, if you get on a flight, and the flight, there's maybe turbulence and the mask or the plane is losing some type of pressure, air pressure. When that mask comes down, they always tell you to put the mask on your face first before you put it on. Maybe if you have you have a spouse or you have another passenger that you on the plane with. And this is so important. We always have to think about our own future. While it's important that we take care of people back home, we're not saying we shouldn't take care of people, but we're saying that it's so important because we have all these other overwhelming debts that needs to be gotten rid of before we can even make back home a priority. So people back home, we're not telling you, we're not saying that we're not going to help. That's not what we're saying. But just like you have your own financial challenges back home, we also have financial challenges here in the diaspora. And it's also right for us to put ourselves in better financial situations today so that tomorrow we can leave a better legacy for us and for our children. And, thank you, Modupe, for that. Debola, I know that you're probably thinking in your head to, like, this is something that we don't talk about, and maybe we don't even have more avenues to really talk about some of these things in our community. And I know, a lot of us, we've gone through this, and if we've not even gone through it personally, we know people who are close who have gone through it. So my question to you, Debola, is what are some of the most common debt traps that we face when it comes to student loans, credit cards, car loans, and any of those debts that we accumulate as people in the diaspora?
All right, let's talk about this. Talking about traps. Uh, Mudupe opened this up in a very, clarified way, and she already also pointed out some solutions. But it's very important to know that these debts are actually traps in reality. Some of us, at least personally, I have experienced at least one of these mentioned traps. You talk about student loans, talk about credit cards, you talk about car loans, and we believe that these are must have sort of debt. Oh, this is America. I can always get a credit card to get things done, and I will pay it over time. Or student loan. I mean, I didn't hear anything about student loan until I came to America, and it felt like, okay, we have to take a loan to go to school, and I see the student loan as a delayed reality trap. You borrow with hope, but you repay with pressure. And the time when you start to repay, the payments often start when life is just beginning. When you start working, maybe you got married, and then there's rent, there's family, there's responsibilities, and then there is student loan that you have to repay. It's easy to underestimate the total cost over time. So there's always I'll figure it out later. Then it turns into years of financial delay. This is something we need to be aware of. And I see it and I say, oh my, I hope I'm working towards the fact that my child won't have to take a student loan to go to college, because I don't see her starting to work and having to start paying such huge amount of loan. When I hear of what people have in student loan, I marvel times. So that is the about student loan. We're not saying that, oh, I mean, if you don't have any other choice, any of that means, you may have to, but that means you have to put some other things into consideration, planning how you're going to execute it, get it sorted out. You may have to start working or whatever it is, but it's good for you to know the reality of what it is. Then you have credit cards, the convenience trap. You have credit cards you can use anywhere, swipe now and worry later. You have high interest, 20% plus sometimes, quietly compounds over time. Minimum payments that will create that illusion of progress. Like, oh, you are paying it off. You see at the end of the day that what you pay, what's the charges that comes in is more than the interest that you've paid, because you're not paying what you owe. So feeling in control while sinking into deeper deeper trap. So that's also we have to be aware of. And then car loan. Oh, should I not have a car? Of course, you will need a car. You need to move around. It's more convenient to move around. But the car loan is like a lifestyle trap. A lifestyle trap. You get into that trap, and you framed it as a necessity, but often gradually, upgrades into, I would say, into a luxury. You have the long loan terms, you have years of fixed payments. If you don't have a good credit, you may not even get a good rate, and then you have to just work at it. Some people's car loans are even more, almost the same rent that they pay than their rent. I mean, there's no how to build wealth if we do not really sit down and have a plan on to what we want to do before we go into some of these loans. Getting loans because they are just convenient, they are easy. They are available. So just try not to just normalize everything like, oh, everybody has it, or underestimate it. Oh, it's not bad, or I will deal with it later. Before you get to that point, make sure you have a plan in place so that you don't get too deep into these traps. Loan are easy, but when it comes to pay back, to pay back, it's not always easy. So these three are the most common loans that's easily available and people get into.
Awesome, awesome.
Thank you,
And
Demola. That's it.
you're welcome. And if you're just joining us, welcome again. And we're just shining the spotlight on what we call debt detox. And we cannot overemphasize some of these things because this is what we face daily as, people in the diaspora, and there's no way we can say, let's push this off because this is what would help us leave that legacy if we're to leave a financial legacy. This is what would put us down or put us where we want to be. And this is why this topic is so important that we actually trash these things. We actually start to shine the spotlight on it. We know that credit cards are out there. We know that student loans are out there. We know that all these things are out there, but we're just bringing it to our attention that do we really need some of these things? Or if we already have them, what are the plans to cut these things down? And that's what we are really bringing the spotlight to. So we're not saying people shouldn't get credit cards or none of that. That's not what we're saying. If you're going to get one, you must as well have a solution for how to pay it off, not just getting one and accumulating more debt so that you get into that trap. So we're going to look at some step by step, some solutions to this debt detox. We've been talking about all these debts, but how do we, what are the steps that we can do, practical steps that we can do to actually get out of this thing? So I'm going to throw that to you, Modupe. Help us out, share with our viewers some steps that we can probably take advantage of to get out of debt.
Thank you, Demola. And you will agree with me, yourself and Debola, that this is one of the very crucial foundational conversations we have with our client when we sit them down and we're trying to set them up, on what it could be like for them in terms of their finance, in terms of, okay, their retirement plans and whatnot. One of the conversations we have, which is not always very comfortable, is what debt protection strategy do you have in place? I mean, do you currently, so we even help them understand, do they have one? Meaning, if you have a liability or an obligation, you should be able to know what it is, identify it, because it's crucial. Because it makes no sense if you have a whole lot of, debts to manage, right? And then you're trying to save, for the future. You will always constantly see something drawing you back, especially given the fact that compounding will work against you. You heard Debola talked about, the student loan, the car note, and all that. How many of us have sat down to ask ourselves, when you got that auto, right, and you at the car dealership or what have you, how much did you did you negotiate as the cost? And at the end of the day, when you finally paid off that car, how much did you actually pay up for? That's a very critical question many of us are not paying attention to. You
Very
will
true.
find out that you probably would have doubled or tripled at times the cost you had negotiated that car for. That is compounding, working against us. So I'm not going to ring that as if I'm trying to beat us out of that. Like I said, this is somebody's reality. We don't take it lightly at all. But we're saying that, there has to be a way out. We're passionately saying that we cannot continue to do this and expect a different result. What are those steps we can look into? Sit down and identify, schedule all of those debt obligations on your radar. Is it the student loan you have? Is it the car note? Are those credit cards? Once you identify every one of them, brainstorm with yourself. Schedule time with yourself. Have a meeting with yourself. You are the CEO, you are the board of director. Talk to yourself and put all of those things down. Identify all of these balances that you have, outstanding balances, right? On those credit cards, on all of those things you've identified. What is the interest rate for each and every one of them? You'll be shocked. Some of them going to 24%, most of those credit cards. Some 18, maybe 15 if your credit score is really nice, right?
Very true.
Those down. Minimum payment. What are they requiring from you minimally? What is the due date? When you have all of this stated out, you are just starting out. You're making progress. You're making progress. Rome was not built in a day. So embrace the journey while we're working through this. The second thing I'm going to say is that now begin to track your real cash flow. You know what comes in every month. You know what comes in every quarter. You know what comes in every year. Write down dollar for dollar what comes in and what goes out. There are a lot of apps out there that you can use. And be honest with yourself when it comes to all of these things, right? There are certain, black taxes that comes along the way. Some things you just give out to people, those remittances. Put it down. For those who are, driven by faith, whatever charitable contribution cost you have it, put all of those things down. Now, build a budget for yourself. And I think we've talked about budgets in our previous conversations on this podcast. Build a budget for yourself, whereby you're literally slicing these things out for you. If you go with the 50-30-20 rule, I'm not going to spend time on that so I don't, take our time. Or if you're going with the 60-20-20 rule, whichever, but make sure you have a budget that works for you. If you want to hear about budgeting and whatnot, please refer to our previous episodes on this channel. Now, at this junction, begin to create for yourself emergency fund. And I think we talked about emergency fund in our previous episodes too. You could see how all of these things are coming together. Why is emergency fund essential? Because we don't want you to go back to the same hole that you came from.
Yeah, right.
So we're saying, let us intentionally now build an emergency fund and put it in a high yield savings account. There are plenty of them out there. We're not going to mention names right now, okay? You need specific information, reach out to any one of us. We will guide you, okay? What does this do? It means that in the event you have an emergency need, you're not going to go back to those credit cards. You will go into those emergency funds because that is what they are for. If it's nothing is in there, then there's nothing for you to spend at that point in time.
No.
Balance it, structure it. Now, don't forget that we've listed out all these debt obligations and whatnot. We now have to intentionally choose a repayment method. There are quite a few ways you could knock it off. If you have a preferred one which works for you, please, by all means. But I will just let out two types of, repayment method that you could identify. We call one of them the snowball method. What does the snowball method do? It helps you just put down your debt in order from the smallest, right, to the greatest. And what do? You order the debt by smallest balance first, which means you pay the minimums on all, while the remaining balance in terms of your discretionary fund that is left at that point in time, It goes all the way to the smallest. So that way you're paying up the smallest. So you're motivated. You have a list of 20 credit cards, everything, store cards. So by the time you get rid of that, you're happy, you're excited, you're motivated. You want to continue in that manner. And before you know it, voila, psychological wins keep you going. Now, the second one will be the avalanche, which saves the most money. Again, we identify the interest rate. So what are we going to do? We list out all of this, same minimums, okay, extra on the highest. And it just keeps you disciplined. But one thing I'm just going to say to wrap up and, get it back to you, Demola, very quickly, is that when we decide to do these things intentionally and we don't automate it, we're going to miss it.
Yeah.
Because life will happen. You're so busy. You're trying to man this, you're man that. Many of us are wearing multiple hats, fortunately, unfortunately, right? And so, but if you put things and you automate it, it helps very fast. So you already know has to do this, and before you know it, voila, automation is working for you. And hey, we are in the generation of what? Artificial intelligence. Why not use it? Yeah. Meet with an accountability partner. Meet with a financial professional. Let them sit you down and help you to get things done. So that would probably just be my 1, 2 quick 3 ways of just getting this done in a baby steps format.
Wow.
I know that was quite, winded, but hey, long-winded, but I hope somebody got value from that. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure they got some value. And viewers, if you are using other methods that we're not mentioning, remember, this is just, we're just having this debate, this panel, just to help each and every one of us get to our next level, just to help lighten the load, the burden on us. If you are using other methods, you could put it in the comments. Let us know what method you're using out there. Remember, we are all in this together. But if we don't have conversations around some of these topics, then we're not getting by. We're not doing ourselves any, we're not doing ourselves any good as people in the diaspora. So all we're just saying is, let's start to take advantage of some of these things we're hearing. There are so many books, there are so many things on YouTube that each and every one of us can watch. But if we're not bringing these to our forefront, there is no way we start to attack these things. And I can only imagine how many people are in the diaspora that, are actually suffering in silence. They are consumed with all these debts, but they don't have a way out. But as we bring more light to these things, I hope this is helping somebody. So, Debola, I know, you started with this the other time, when it comes to car loans, and it's so interesting. I remember my first car loan, I actually took a loan too. And thank God it wasn't a huge loan. So I was able to repay. And we know in some of our societies or some of our cities, especially if you live in the inner city or the metropolitan, some of us times you need cars. So please share with our, our audience, about the car loans. We need reliable transportation, but they drain us. Talk a little bit about the car loans.
All right, Demola. You know what? Talking about car loan is just one of the many loans that people take. And based on what Modupe said, Modupe has already sort of mentioned some things, how to just planning. So I'm not going to go into that because of our time. And I'm going to jump into when we become debt free, which Modupe a little bit talk about. What are the things how do we build? Because so that I won't just focus on the car loan. It's just one. Okay. But after we become debt free, based following Modupe's step, how do we now build wealth? I will just quickly mention, in the next 1 minute, some of the things that we can do, and there we go. We know becoming debt free is very powerful, but it's not the finish line. So it is the moment you finally have control. I mean, it's now the question is, what do you do with it? Okay, number one, build your financial foundation first. Mudupe mentioned something about emergency fund. Very important. You have to build that 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Before chasing wealth, secure your base. Okay. Stable monthly cash flow is very important because wealth grows best on a stable foundation, not survival mode. Number two, start investing consistently. Seek advice, seek expert advice, whatever kind of investment you want to do. Talk to investment advisors and let them show you what to do. Think yes, not just quick wins. The goal is to make your money work while you sleep. Number three, increase your income. Increase your income. Saving alone is slow. Income growth changes everything. So ask for raises if you have to, or switch your jobs, or start a business, start a side also, start another income stream. All right. A lot that fits into your lifestyle. Build your skills to pay more, to pay you more over time. Okay. Create multiple streams of income. Don't rely on just one source. Have an active stream that pays you even while you sleep. That's the simplest way to put it, the basic way, that even while you are not doing anything, it's making you money, a passive income. All right. And then control lifestyle inflation. Don't spend above what you earn. Do not
Yeah.
spend above what you earn. These are simple things, simple ways that we can, things that we can put in place to help us start to build wealth. Buy assets and not just liabilities. Buy things that will multiply, that not things that will take from you. All right. I said put money into your pocket. Liabilities, take them out. So we need to
Hmm.
be wise. We need to be wise. Open your eyes, be wise, and do the right thing. All right.
Wow. Yeah, our viewers, our time is fast spent. I want to thank you, Adebola. I want to thank you, Modupe. You guys have brought so much wealth of knowledge for us today. Viewers, all we're saying is start today. One list, one budget, one extra payment. Freedom is possible. And remember, you're not alone. Millions in the diaspora, millions of diasporans, we've done this. The data shows the gap. Our action closes it. On the next time, I want you to share on the comments, share your wins, share your strategies with us. And on the next time on Well Bridge, we'll see you again. Viewers, thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you, Mudukwe. Thank you, Adebola. We'll see you, viewers. Remember to share, like, and subscribe. We see you
Wonderful.
again next episode. God
Thank you,
bless.
brother. Yep.
You're
See you
welcome.
all later. Bye.
All right. Take care, everyone.